Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. We meet today for a new video on Need for Speed Heat. A video where we're simply going to go for a top 5 of the cars that are for me the fastest, the most efficient, the most cited. You call it what you want, but basically the cars that will give you the most chances of winning your tests, whether in solo or in multi. This video aims to introduce you to some lesser-known cars that you may be less familiar with compared to the well-known 1973 Carrera RSR 2.8 that will be found in this top, since in fact there are quite a few cars that can compete with it or even be faster. So indeed, we will start with the Carrera RSR from the 73 team, which is not necessarily, we will say, the slowest of stop. But we will say the same because simply it's the most known car and the car. The reference has been overpowered in Need for Speed games since 2015, including in Need for Speed Payback. And on hit, it is still as fast, but there are a few better cars, so I will still show you what I recommend in terms of swap, in terms of improvement. So we will drive it a little bit to show you how it turns and how it accelerates too. I suggest using the flat 6 engine. 3.6 liters that goes up to 936 horsepower once you have all the ultimate plus and ultimate parts. And of course, I recommend, depending on what you want to do, to go for a track setting. A balanced setting overall. I only race on B-tubes, so the track parts work well for me. But depending on your actions afterwards, feel free to improve as you wish. The car accelerates from 0 to 100 in 1.9 seconds with a top speed of around 377 or 394 with nitro. Let's take it for a drive to showcase its capabilities. You may have seen this car in my other Need for Speed videos, as I had already customized it and realized it was quite overpowered. This drive should demonstrate what I had shown in that previous video. Despite missing an ultimate piece, I still made modifications, resulting in a theoretically faster car now. In any case, here it is. It's cool because it has good acceleration, it has a good VMAX, and it has good handling. It's not the most broken in terms of handling, but it's really, let's say, very correct, and it's more than enough. Let's say to succeed in most of the tests. We're going to put a little bit of nitro on it. Let's see if we can catch, you never know, a better peak than last time. But no. Anyway, it's going to be complicated to fly civil, but basically 395 kilometers per hour with the nitro downhill. Very good acceleration and road holding, let's say. Quite correct. Another car that deserves to be in this top. It's the 96 Mazda MX-5 that I showed you in a video where I had swapped with an engine that is normally not swappable on this car. It was the Jaguar 5.8 that goes up to 1,539 horses, which really made me a completely overrated car. The thing is that this swap, it was a modded swap. You can't do that normally. I therefore advise you to swap it with the 3-liter flat 6 engine that goes up to 802 horses. So it is a little less powerful indeed than the Porsche RSR that I showed you before. We have a 0 to 100 that is a little less good. On the other hand, we have a handling that is a bit better. So I realized that in the video where I showed it to you. I was wrong, I had put on drag tires. Obviously, it didn't turn very well. With track tires, it turns quite well. Plus, it has excellent braking performance. And honestly, it has a good kick. And on top of that, it has quite a bit of customization. It's not too expensive. I think it's under $40,000 in the game. And it's honestly a very, very good car that I recommend you try. It may not be the most famous car in the game, let's say in terms of performance. Yet honestly, it's capable of delivering a punch. It can compete with many hypercar types. It honestly rivals an RSR for less money. Let's say it's a bit different. If you want to change your car style a bit, let's put it that way. There you go, you'll see a very good acceleration. And indeed, once you've put on the slick tires, it handles much better. I had made a mistake at the time. I put on drag tires in a rush, and issues arose. It happens when you hurry improvements. Let's say what makes a good car on Need for Speed Heat is, well, you'll tell me a little bit in the comments if you agree with this or not, but it's frankly the acceleration and the handling. Let's say there's not necessarily a need for a very big car in terms of top speed. So, we'll see a little bit what you think about it. I'm sorry, there's a neighbor who's doing some work. He decides to use his saw just as I'm upgrading the MX-5. We'll do a little sprint with it anyway, and then we'll move on to the next model on the list. I don't know if you heard the saw, but I think it's going to be heard in the editing. Well, I'm going to wait to shoot the rest of the video. I'm just going to do a little speed run to see how much it gets now. But it's about 385 this one. A little bit below the RSR, but still very correct. Then we have the 2006 BMW M 1.86 miles TR, which is a car that you get for free, simply by finishing the career. You'll get it on one of the main characters. I won't tell you who because I don't want to spoil. But basically, it's a very, very, very OP car. Well, it has an acceleration that is a little bit below the 2 I showed you before. However, it has a handling that is quite abused. And in addition to that, it's a car that you will generally appreciate since it's, let's say, the nod to Need for Speed. Most wanted, and I tell you that it has really an insane handling, this one, so I recommend it. I advise you to swap it with the 4.4 V8 engine, which goes up to 1,120 horsepower, which allows to have one of the stats, let's say, that goes up to having stats. The car has stats similar to what I mentioned, including track tires. You can customize it as you like, but I'm showing you its potential. Frankly, it's a great car. As I mentioned, I think a good car in Need for Speed should have excellent acceleration and handling. Even if the acceleration isn't the best in the game, although it's still very good, this car's handling is really exceptional. This one is really good. The car is well-balanced and maneuverable, handling tight corners with ease, allowing for a versatile driving experience, or whether it's a bit wider turns and... Obviously, it will depend on your settings. It will depend on how you have configured your game if you have rather set the driving grip or the drift driving. But honestly, this car is just excellent. It's not very well known yet. People tend to put other cars in the top of the best cars, but this one for the shot, it's really not bad. Hop, there's a little bit of police. Well, let's take advantage of it. We have the bridge there. We're going to try to make a little peek. Even if for the shot this one has a big VMAX, it's not necessarily what I was saying earlier. It's not necessarily the most important. And indeed, this one has a good VMAX for the shot. And you see it runs perfectly at more than 380. I recommend visiting the 6 cities as it's very easy. The Ferrari F40 is quite expensive, costing between $400,000 and $500,000, so it's not cheap. Acceleration slightly better than the M3 GTR while having a similar route. So I really recommend it. I advise you to swap it with the Hybrid 4 inline, which gives 1,089 horsepower, so it's not necessarily the one that gives the best result in terms of power, but it's the one that gives the best result in terms of acceleration. And as I told you earlier, it's better to have a little less of VMAX, a little less of raw power, but have top acceleration. So obviously a Quipper, the Ultimate Plus, and an Ultimate. In addition to that, it's a beautiful car. The F40, I think everyone will appreciate. We're going to test this model. Listen up. We'll see what it can do. I'm not sure what I did, but I put 2 days or 2 nights there, and it ended up being quite long. The acceleration and road holding of this car are excellent. I'm not sure about the charging time, but I think it's 2 days. Anyway, like all the cars you show today. These are really boxes that each time have a good road holding, and a good speed, and a good acceleration. Sorry. Without necessarily having the greatest power. By the way, I've had quite a lot of feedback about that, but as I told you, don't get confused. I made a video, let's say with the top, my little top. I made a small video on that. The most powerful cars in the game, so you indeed have 3 models that were between 1,300 and 1,500 horsepower. 3 or 4 models, I don't remember. The thing is, just because you have a powerful car doesn't mean you necessarily have a fast car. And just because you have a powerful car doesn't mean you necessarily have the best car, as I was able to show in that video. In this video, you won't find any cars from the first video about the most powerful cars. Despite their power, they may not have the best acceleration or handling. The Regera packs 1,500 horsepower but lacks cornering ability and ultimately delivers subpar acceleration. The cars I'm showing today are different. Don't confuse power with speed, performance, or acceleration. They're not necessarily related. Indeed, a powerful car is more likely to have good acceleration than a less powerful car. But there you have it. After that, it all depends on a lot of things. The weight, the aerodynamics, the chassis, a lot of stuff. So you can't just rely on the power, on the number of horses your car has. Anyway, F40 that I recommend, that I strongly advise you. It's honestly a very good car. I'll show you the last one. For those familiar with Need for Speed, you likely won't be surprised, as there is indeed a car that completely cheated, more than the RSR. All the cars I've shown you so far are either slightly below or equal to the RSR in performance. Now I'm going to show you one that is a little bit above, which has a lot of advantages. So wait while I find it for you. Here is the Evo 9, which is monstrous. It's really insane. Well, first of all, it has the advantage of being 4-wheel drive. It starts up extremely quickly. It goes from 0 to 100 in 180 seconds, and it has a handling that is really quite overpowered. I strongly suggest swapping to the inline 4 engine. which goes up to 1,400 horsepower, providing the opportunity to have something completely cheated. It's arguably the best car now of the game. Really, whether it's any category of car combined. This one is the best. It excels in basic racing and all-terrain racing. If you want to make an all-terrain car, this is an excellent base. And there you have it. In terms of acceleration, this one without swap mode, without glitchy stuff, let's say it's simply a monster, it's not customized at the moment. I will customize it in another video since I believe it's the only car I showed you today that's not customized. The MX-5 was customized, the RSA was customized, the F40, there's no customization on it. And the 1003. 1000 OS wanted, there's no possibility to customize it either. So in the end, the only one that's not customized yet, that I could customize, that I haven't done yet. In terms of customization, it's the 1000 Mitsubishi. I will do it in a video. One of these days. Don't worry, we're going to do a little bit of highway. So we understand the video afterwards because it was just to show you a little bit these 5 cars. Then, of course, there's the Pagani. I could name others that are really not bad. And didn't win the Werribee C, which is indeed not far behind the top 5, because it would have the 6th place, so to speak. Well, after that, it also depends on your driving style and how you've set up your game. As I was saying earlier, the GTR 71-2, which is quite overpowered with certain swaps, or there and then. And then what else is there that's overpowered? Well, there are quite a few in this game that are really in the top play, but let's say nothing is really at the level of what I showed you today, I think. After, obviously, we all have our little convictions, we all have our little preferences, and there you go. I'm not saying there you go. Really, there are your little preferences that will also play a role, but I think that clearly here we have the cars that are the closest, the most overpowered in the game. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. As always, check out the description and comments for more info. Don't hesitate to find me on social networks, Twitch, or for live streams. All the links are provided below. So I cut here. I tell you, see you soon. Hello everyone, ciao!